What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quartering. There's going to be probably some images in this video that I'll try to avoid a lot of the more rough stuff. But an entire Dreamliner, a Boeing Dreamliner, just went down shortly after takeoff, and it was all but a total loss, except for one survivor who apparently jumped from the plane while it was in the air and survived. They were seated in an exit row. I'm going to have a separate video on that because I think that's a pretty miraculous story. But right now, you know, 241 people are not coming home. This is. I've watched the video. I think I know what happened. But we'll go through this. So an Air India airliner carrying 242 passengers and crew en route to the United Kingdom crashed shortly after takeoff, with one passenger surviving the crash, local officials in the airline said. The flight, which departed the airport at 1 o'clock, 1:30 local time, was carrying 242 passengers and crews members on board the 787-8 aircraft. The airline said in a statement posted on social media, of these, 169 are Indian nationals, 53 are British, 1 Canadian, and 7 Portuguese individuals. The civil hospital has confirmed to ABC News that Ramesh Vishwaskumar, one passenger on the down Air India flight, is alive and in the hospital. The plane, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, crashed in a neighborhood in India's Gujarat state, Malik said Thursday. Boeing Dreamliner planes had not previously been involved in an incident where passenger fatalities were ever reported. This plane had more than 41,000 hours of flying time, which is considered about average for this aircraft, according to Cirium, an aviation analytics firm. Now, by the way, there's also some information on this plane I'm going to share with you later in this video from someone who was on it on the flight before. An Indian Director General of Civil Aviation said the plane, quote, fell on the ground outside the airport perimeter. Sure, it fell immediately after it departed from the airport. Now, generally, when this happens, you have a stall. This is a very, very important part of takeoff in aviation. It's probably what one of the things you practice the most as a pilot. And, my wife spent a considerable amount of time on this. I talked to her about this crash this morning. It looked like the flaps. Let's go here. So here's some CCTV footage. It's not too up close, so you don't see anything too terrible. I imagine there are people in this neighborhood. Now, look at these shack. It's a literal shack here. So you see in the upper right, this is a Dreamliner taking off. Looks like security footage that's leaked from the airport. It gets a certain amount of lift right here. I think the flaps are still down. So what you're going to have here is probably a stall right there. See how it's losing lift? It's losing lift and now it's just dropping. This, as far as I know, we don't see any engines go out or engine failure. It literally just falls out of the sky. It looks small, but this is a gigantic plane. A Dreamliner is made for large international flights, and there you see the impact. This particular impact is obviously particularly bad because you end up having, the plane has a full fuel load, and the explosion is obviously at the most dangerous. You see a lot of times when there are planes that there are issues with. If they have landing gear stuck or something like that, they'll circle the airport to try and get as much fuel as they can out of that airport, out of the plane. Now, here is somebody, I was on the same flight 2 hours before it took off from AMD. I came in from DEL AMD, I don't know when that's another airport, and noticed unusual things in the place. Let's take a look. So here he shows a picture of the plane that he was on, confirming that it was that plane, taking a picture of it. I think he's excited that it's a Dreamliner. But then you see this.
We are almost about to taxi, but this AC is not working. Look at everyone.
Now, I'm pretty sure that's normal for India, but I don't know. Most of the people in the comments are saying that's fairly normal. The AC not working is not, I don't think something they would, I think they would fix that before they took off in America, but that's certainly not why the plane crashed. This appears again to be pilot error. My assumption, we're going to take another look at that.
And it's so many people, they are using these magazines. AC is not working at all. And as usual, your TV screens are also not working.
Now he says as usual. And I don't know if they lock them until you reach a certain altitude. I never really fly fancy. I think when I flew to Hawaii, there was a screen, but I never used it.
Neither this button for calling the cabin crew. Nothing is working. Nothing. Not even the light is working. See? Is this what you are providing? And as usual, that is why Air India is considered as one of the worst airlines in the world. AC is still not working, and today it is very, very, very hot in Delhi.
Yeah, it's probably, and you get no like airflow at all. Now it looks like somebody's watching a movie. I don't know.
Dreamliner 787.
Like the person in front of him seems to be watching a movie. I don't know. Or maybe it's just his seat.
I'm sweating like hell.
Yeah, there's a movie playing in front of him. Sounds like there's, again he shows this. The map's not working.
As usual, the map, the in-flight entertainment is not working. Leave in-flight entertainment.
Calicut to landing stations.
If I talk about this light, it is also not working.
Sounds like they might be in flight here too. And then his ticket proving he was on that plane. Interesting. There's a better picture of the crash where you can see the flaps. I want to grab that quick because it looks pretty. Let's see here. Of course, Benny's reposting, or Benny's little social media person's reposting it. Looks like human error. Landing gear not retracted as usual. Flaps could have been also improperly set. Yeah, this is acceleration stall, I think they would call it. I might be incorrect on that. Here's different footage. If we look at the Ukraine battle map one, this one again. There it is. I saw this plane earlier, or this footage. Now, the guy that survived it claimed he heard a loud boom, but I don't hear that. He just loses lift. Flaps and landing gear are still down. So this, obviously, you have, a fuselage here crammed in a building. Of course, people in India are taking pictures. There was like a disembodied head just on the street. A bunch of Indians were taking pictures of that. I'm not going to show that. There's also people talking about there was a Boeing whistleblower, John Barnett, warned of a major quality issue in the company's 787 aircraft. I think this was pilot error. That's what it looks like to me. There's a lot of people. Let me go to this. Let me pull this up because Air India flaps. Because it looks like the flaps here. Yep, Air India flight A171. New footage. Airside take roll off. Still no visible flaps on a heavy loaded jet. Full runway used. Kicks up dust at the end, meaning they either didn't have enough speed. So and obviously no airspeed to sustain the flight. Steps were missed, and that thing was flung into the sky, but just very briefly. Should have aborted the takeoff. Everyone would have survived. Here you see another. I'm an airline pilot with 15,000 hours of experience and a physics institute. The flaps are slightly extended, presumably to position 1 instead of 5, where they should have been. The landing gear is also still extended, which should have been retracted at this altitude and causes additional drag. The aircraft is at a high angle of attack. You learn about this angle of attack leading to stalls, which confirms the insufficient flap setting. From the video and witness accounts, only low engine noise is audible. Neither smoke nor fire is visible, an engine failure making it less likely. The most probable cause is human error. An incorrectly chosen insufficient flap setting for takeoff, and consequently, an inadequately selected thrust. In this context, the correlated speeds were too low because they were calculated for a larger flap setting or a lighter aircraft. As a result, the aircraft took off with insufficient speed and intentionally but falsely derated the thrust, was therefore on an unstable ride, rapidly lost more speed and altitude due to the additional failure to retract the landing gear in a timely manner, leading to a subsequent stall at a low altitude and crash. For the expert, the aircraft got on the wrong side of the speed versus drag curve, which is how you learned where a stall comes in the engine, and maneuvered itself into a corner from where there was no escape. This is one of the most deadly combinations that you can have on takeoff. Another possible cause could have been an incorrect input of a wrong takeoff weight into the flight management system, resulting in too low thrust and too low speeds. The pilot got startled after takeoff and couldn't wrap their head around what went wrong and incorrectly prioritized making an emergency call instead of flying the aircraft first. That's the number one rule they teach you as a pilot: fly the plane. My wife's afraid of bees. What happens if a bee flies into the cabin? You fly the plane. What happens if a bird crashes through your windshield? You fly the plane. Manually increasing thrust immediately to maximum and retracting the landing gear is what he should have done, he or she. In summary, this is very early in preliminary assessment, but the most probable cause is human error. The unverified reporting shows the aircraft took off prematurely as well. If air density altitude was not in their calculations, this as well could have been a accounting contributor. I showed my wife, she immediately said that it's a stall. Pilots recognize this, and it's at its most dangerous immediately after takeoff. My heart goes out to the 240 that lost their lives, and whoever that one individual was who jumped off in midair, I hope he buys a lottery ticket today because God was looking out after him. I hope you're informed by this video. We're going to cover more about him later on how he survived it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.